An ant doesn't know it's part of an army, yet it executes complex tactical maneuvers that would make a human general weep. How does a mindless insect turn into a perfect soldier the second it hits the front line? We tend to look at an anthill and see a chaotic mess. But if you zoom in, you aren't watching bugs. You're watching a high-stakes, real-time strategy simulation playing out in real life. The catch? There is no player at the controls. There's no commander issuing orders from a distant room, and no GPS guiding the flank. It's pure, decentralized chaos that somehow produces military precision. Today, I'm putting on my strategist's hat to break down how these colonies manage to wage total war, turn their environment into a weapon, and effectively build a subterranean empire that has survived for millions of years. It's time to stop seeing them as pests and start seeing them as the most ruthless infantry on the planet. Take a look at this. I'm standing here with a tape measure that looks like it belongs in a Victorian workshop, trying to wrap its flimsy yellow film around the perimeter of a Formica roofa mound. It's absurd, really. From my perspective, the ledger explorer, the strategist clutching a sketchbook filled with half-baked tactical diagrams, I'm trying to impose a human grid system onto a battlefield that simply refuses to acknowledge the concept of geometry. We are used to war defined by lines, the phalanx, the trench, the rigid, shivering front line of human infantry waiting for a whistle. We think in terms of centralized command, of generals shouting into radios, of a singular brain steering the machine of war. But here, the soil beneath my boots is a living, roiling simulation of pure, decentralized processing. As I attempt to sketch out the colony's strategic reach, the map in my notebook starts to betray me. I draw a circle to denote the foraging radius, but the map doesn't hold still. The ants aren't a static army. They are a fluid, a collective computational entity that ripples across the forest floor like a spilled ink blot that knows exactly where it's going. This is the superorganism. It isn't a collection of individuals obeying a queen. It's a distributed network where every unit is a sensor, a soldier, and a laborer all at once. There is no general hiding in the tunnels. There is only the chemistry of the pheromone trail, a real-time update that dictates whether the swarm retreats or commits to a total annihilation of the target. Watching them move is like watching a biological supercomputer execute a strategy that is simultaneously chaotic and perfectly efficient. I'm trying to measure a system that isn't just fighting for territory, it's evolving its own reality with every footstep I attempt to track. If you find yourself wondering how a creature no bigger than a grain of sand can outmaneuver human logic, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown of how these hive minds handle the chaos of total war. But trying to map the perimeter is just the beginning. If I want to understand this army, I have to stop thinking like a surveyor and start thinking like a developer, peering into the source code of a real-time strategy game. Because this mound isn't just a pile of pine needles. It's a living, breathing production queue. It all starts with the egg, the base unit of the colony. To a human observer, these tiny, translucent spheres look identical. But within the walls of the hive, the game has already begun. As the larvae emerge, they enter the most critical phase of the build order, the nutrition-gated progression system. Imagine a production facility where the quality of the raw materials doesn't just dictate the speed of construction, but the very class of the unit being printed. If the nurses provide high-protein payloads, the growth trajectory shifts. Some larvae will be steered toward becoming minor workers, the maintenance units that keep the infrastructure functional. Others, fed a different, more specialized diet, will undergo a metamorphic surge, growing the jagged, reinforced mandibles of the soldier caste, the frontline tanks designed to hold the line against intruders. This isn't random. It's an incredibly efficient, decentralized resource management strategy that allows the colony to react to environmental threats in real time. If a neighboring colony attacks, the pheromone trails shift, the nursing behavior pivots, and suddenly, the production lines are pumping out soldiers instead of foragers. It takes years for a single mated queen, the colony's ultimate save file, to transform from a lone pioneer digging a desperate solitary hole in the dirt into the central processor of a subterranean empire numbering in the hundreds of thousands. By the time this colony reaches its apex, it isn't just an anthill. It's a state-level military entity, optimized through millions of years of evolution to outlast, outproduce, and eventually outmaneuver anything in its path. As I continue sketching out the hierarchy of this subterranean machine, it becomes clear that we need to look closer at the sensory network that coordinates these millions of units. If you're curious about how they actually communicate this complex production data, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the breakdown of the pheromone grid in the next segment. If the egg is the base unit, then chemical warfare is the operating system running in the background. As I sit here, my stick figure avatar, the Ledger Explorer, steps into the front line of a foraging party. Suddenly, the air changes. I'm not just walking through dirt anymore. I'm walking through a minefield. The ants don't just bite, they atomize. They deploy formic acid, a substance so potent it acts like a localized liquid burn. I've animated my stick figure taking a direct hit, and it's not pretty. The pixels sizzle, distorting into static as the acid dissolves the digital integrity of the sketch. It's a stark reminder that these creatures have been perfecting chemical ballistic weaponry for millions of years. But here is where the strategy game perspective gets truly unsettling. As the conflict intensifies, I start to overlay the environment with digital wireframes. The pheromone trails aren't just scents, they are glowing, pulsating lines of data, a massive, real-time feedback loop. Watch closely as the ants navigate the chaos. They don't have a commander shouting orders. Instead, they rely on what I call the Evaporation Algorithm. Pheromones are designed to decay. It's a brilliant, self-correcting line of code. By ensuring these chemical markers evaporate over time, the colony prevents data bloat. If a path is no longer useful, the scent fades. The line of code disappears, and the swarm naturally reallocates its bandwidth to more efficient routes. They aren't just reacting to the world. They are constantly optimizing the game map, pruning inefficient paths in a continuous, decentralized loop. It's a level of algorithmic efficiency that makes our best pathfinding software look like a clumsy, dated prototype. It's fascinating to realize how much of their code we're actually starting to mirror in our own tech. But there's a limit to what I can calculate alone. If you're curious about how these decentralized systems compare to our own network architectures, keep an eye on the deep dive link in the description. It's a rabbit hole you won't want to miss. If the ants are running a high-stakes real-time strategy game with chemical code, then we humans are the oblivious gods who keep accidentally patching their maps. As my Ledger Explorer avatar retreats from the caustic sting of the chemical front, we zoom out. We shift from the microscopic trench warfare of the blades of grass to the macro-scale catastrophe, the siege of the backyard. We view our lawns and patios not as leisure spaces, but as urban environments optimized for colonization. We've built the superhighways. By laying down concrete paths, drainage pipes, and heated building foundations, we've inadvertently created a transcontinental infrastructure that invasive ant species navigate with terrifying efficiency. Then comes the ironic theater of human pest control. We emerge with canisters of poison, playing the part of the erratic, clumsy titan. We view these creatures as pests invading our domain. Yet we fail to grasp that we are the ones who turned their wild, chaotic ecosystem into a paved, nutrient-deficient desert. We spray, and they adapt. Their defensive strategies are multi-layered. When we poison a trail, they reroute the network. When we destroy a satellite mound, they reinforce the core. It's a simulation of endurance that we lose more often than we admit. But beneath this conflict lies a deeper reality we systematically ignore. These invading armies, often labeled as nuisances, are the unsung engineers of our own soil. They are the primary agents of nutrient recycling, turning organic waste into fertile earth, tilling the ground more effectively than any plow we've ever invented. By waging war on them, we are effectively trying to bankrupt our own life support system. Our infrastructure provides the roads, but their biology provides the breath of the soil. As we watch the Ledger Explorer cross a cracked sidewalk, a literal tectonic fault in the ant empire, you have to wonder, who is really in control of the backyard? The one with the poison, or the one that understands the ground better than we ever will? If you've ever looked at a trail of ants and wondered what that hive mind is actually calculating beneath your feet, make sure to hit subscribe. We're only just beginning to map the architecture of this subterranean empire. As the dust settles on the battlefield, the Ledger Explorer remains an outsider, forever watching a war that never truly ends. What we perceive as mindless instinct is, in reality, a ruthless, hyper-efficient orchestration that makes our own strategic simulations look like child's play. We study the hive mind to understand the blueprint of collective intelligence, but perhaps the ants are the ones who have mastered the game we're still learning to play. Next time you step over a crack in the pavement, remember, you aren't just walking past an insect, you're walking over a civilization that conquered the world long before we ever learned to map it. Stay curious.